Hey there, my name is E.W. Buckley. I'm an artist who writes music for video games, VR, the opera stage, and I also release my own electronic music. And recently I just released a new single and music video for a song called Variables.
I can't wait anymore.
Now, I've actually talked a lot about the construction of this song on this YouTube channel, but I haven't talked about one of my favorite parts, which is the guitar tone that I use on this track. Let's focus in on that for a moment. It's something that I've been tweaking for years now. I first came up with the concept for this guitar tone when I was writing the music for the Barbie You Can Be a Fashion Designer VR kids game. Even the rack was called Barbie Dream Guitar or something in my live browser for years. And I've finally really tweaked it into a super usable, clean guitar tone. And I want to show you the basics of how that tone is constructed. And I also then want to show you a rack that I've made that just allows me to supercharge the range of tones available. Let's go ahead and jump right in. Let's start off with just the raw recording. It's my Telecaster that you see behind me. I believe I recorded it on the bridge pickup, and it is just recorded directly into my Motu Ultralight MK5, and it sounds like this. And it just repeats. It's in no way, shape, or form a perfect recording, but I'm not really worried about perfection in my music, and that's okay. So the first thing that I always hit my guitars with is a gate just set up to reduce the noise. The very next effect in the chain is actually OTT. It is used all the time to make synths pop out and jump over the top. And I was curious one time to just try out and see, does OTT sound good on guitar? And the answer, with a couple of modifications, is yes, it does. So let's bring the OTT up to just about 50%, play a little bit of it, and then we'll talk through the modifications that I made. So, a couple of things that I did. Normally, the high band output is at like plus 10 decibels. That really brings that hum from the pickups forward. I cut those out. Additionally, I nuke the low band. There's nothing useful happening in a guitar below 80 hertz. So I simply just cut it by negative 24 decibels, both on the input and the output. And this gives us a really even, super compressed tone. In addition, to really try to help keep the natural kind of sculpted sound of the guitar's envelope, I actually use envelope follower to control the input and output amount of OTT, and I have it set to remote control and 0 to 50% max. Now, the gain is where you're going to control how much it stays up. Let me explain. So I'm going to play it for you with the gain at the 14 decibels that I have it set at. Let's add 10 decibels of gain. We're going to see that it's going to hang out at the ceiling quite a bit longer, which means that OTT is going to hang out at 50% longer. So we can see we're really reshaping that amplitude envelope in a sense. When we crank up the gain, we're saying, hey, stay open, stay compressed that much longer, and then we'll drop off. So the combo of the split bands for OTT and then using the envelope follower to dynamically control the actual amount of compression that happens gives me a lot of flexibility with the tone of the guitar before we start to move on to some of the more critical tone shaping effects like Chorus-Ensemble. Now I have the modulation amount set to 50%. I have the feedback set to 19%, and I have just a little bit of warmth. I am also keeping the wet dry to about 50% because for a chorus effect to truly be a chorus effect, we need some of that dry signal. So now here's the sound with the chorus included. Now we're getting to that real classic iconic tone, and it's a tone that I just hang out with all the time. The big thing then that I finish off with is modulation effects, and this is going to depend really on the track. For example, on variables, I'm not actually using delay, but I'm going to talk about delay because I use it enough when I am recording my tracks. So I tend to keep my feedback pretty low. I tend to almost always use ping pong. I love the stereo play of moving back and forth. And my dry wet, I keep pretty low. And you can go for something like a slap back with just a single 16th note. And that's really useful if you want to create a sense of space within the music, but you don't necessarily want the added long tail of reverb, which might make a lot of sense depending on the song that you're making. But for me, I often want the long tail of reverb. And this is where, easily one of my top 5 stock plugins in Ableton Live comes in, hybrid reverb. So the big thing for me with hybrid reverb is the shimmer algorithm. If you're unfamiliar with shimmer reverbs, it's pretty straightforward to understand. Essentially, you have the ability to change the pitch of the reverb tail and not the incoming signal. And so this creates opportunities to create some really harmonically rich and interesting musical content, which I'm doing here. I often have my pitch set to 7 semitones or a perfect fifth above the incoming signal, and that creates rich harmonies. Let me play it for you. And you can hear those notes that are hanging out above the chords that I'm playing that aren't in the chords. Let me just crank up the wet dry so that we can really hear the difference. Let's go to about 85%. Some additional controls that are really going to shape the tone are going to be the size. I have it at 50% right now, but let's listen to the size at 100%. Right? We can hear it really never goes away in this instance, versus if we crank the size down to 0%. It just hangs out, it's really small, and it's really just like there with the guitar. And so all of this stuff taken together is the guitar tone that I used for variables, but it is also my go-to guitar sound. I've recently gone through and consolidated everything down to a macro focused rack, and it is just been so nice for my production workflow. Now, I am using all 16 macros, but I really explicitly set this rack up so that you could consolidate it down to your usual just 8 macros, and you have all of the most important and pressing parameters available to you. But let's go ahead and expand it out to 16. And again, I've got my go-to sound that we kind of just heard with a couple of modifications, but now there's enough to give me just a really wide range of tonal possibilities. And I had to stop. I was going through and just making like so many different snapshots of this rack, but I'll play a couple of them for you. The top half are kind of, your more tried and true, useful, clean chorused sounds. I really like this Steady Dreams one. I also like this bright slapback one. And it's just so funny how with just compression, chorus, delay, and reverb, you can get such a wide range of tones, because this dark and heavy is just the total opposite characteristically of the bright slap that we just heard. And then there are just some more experimental, interesting ones that I've played around with. Now, pseudo loop is pretty much just that, a super long delay time that practically is giving us a short looping setup. Resonant bell is exactly as its name implies. As well as metallic, Those last two are for sound design purposes, but hey, you should just bring them to your next band practice and see if your band kicks you out. That's all I have for you today. If you want to get a hold of my clean guitar rack, you can do so in one of two ways. First, you can just pick it up directly from my website. It's available to purchase there. Or if you join my Patreon at the artist tier, you get that rack alongside all of my other preset racks, including a bunch of exclusives that are not available on my website. Thank you so much for watching. Please consider liking, subscribing, and leaving a comment. I'm working really hard to try to grow this channel to 50,000 subscribers by the end of 2026, and it's your support entirely that makes it possible. If you want to go further in helping to sustain the channel and the work that I do, as I mentioned, you can join my Patreon. And also, please listen to Variables, watch the music video, stream the track. I'm really proud of that song. Till next time.